right, on a scale of 1 to 10, how upset do you think Gary Lineker was not to be able to tweet this weekend after Sunday? I mean, what a week to boycott social media. I mean, for good reason, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, probably about an 8. Loves the sound of his own voice, that geezer, doesn't he? Or the sound of his own tweets.
I actually, it got me. I forgot. And then when it all kicked off, my first kind of thing when it's football news, the first thing I do is go to Twitter because I'm like, oh, let's find out what's going on. I want to see some videos of it. And there was nothing. There was nothing. And I was like, this is weird. Why is there nothing? And then I remembered. I was like, oh, yeah, there's a boycott. It actually works.
Does that make you a full-blown racist for not knowing that this was happening?
I hope not. I hope not. No, I knew it was happening. I just forgot in the moment. That's just what you do. You go to Twitter for the latest news because it's going to get it quickest.
Yeah, I didn't even realize who was boycotting because I've actually been reducing my social media for weeks now. So, I didn't go on Twitter.
Well, I think the idea was that it was people associated with football, and also I know that a lot of rugby teams and journalists, and it was supposed to be kind of like all sports. Maybe everyone that was associated with BT, because all of a sudden they had loads of adverts about, online trolling and racism and abuse and stuff. So probably BT was like, all right, guys, let's do this. So we'll see what that means. But obviously, I was a bit gutted about the game on this weekend because it was probably the only one that I was really looking forward to. Me and Rory kind of surrounded our day around watching the 4:30 kickoff. Obviously, it was a lot of people that were upset about the ownership of Man United, similar to Arsenal from last week, talking about Kroenke. I don't really know what to think about it, to be honest, because Graham Souness made an interesting point, and him and Gary Neville was a bit on opposite ends of it, because Gary Neville, obviously, as he does, went on a big diatribe about how horrible and ridiculous it is that these owners are doing X, Y, and Z. And Graham Souness said that, the reason why Man United fans are upset all of a sudden about the Glazers is because they haven't won a trophy or they haven't won the league in like 10 years or whatever. I don't know if you think that all of this stuff is happening, because I've not really seen any Man City fans sort of kick up about it so much. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen Chelsea fans really kicking up. I don't know if their owners have kind of gone a little bit under the radar and their idea is like, right, let's just keep quiet. Do you think there's an issue? Obviously, I need to reframe that question because you're going to say absolutely yes. Do you think there is good enough reason for the ownerships to change for your respective teams? And what do you expect from your owners usually? Why is this such a big deal for you?
Who do you want to answer that?
Yeah,
go on, Mark. You start.
Well, do I want the ownership to change? Not really, because it will just go to another businessman who wants to make money off United. The issue is, like, for me, is not like, oh, we've got a businessman owner who's trying to make profit in every step of the club, because you're like, well, profits in themselves aren't a bad thing. Like, there's a reason Man United are at the top, is because we're one of the financially biggest clubs in the world, and it's like, so that's fine. But what you don't want is like similar to United, Arsenal, and Liverpool, where you feel like the club makes more money than actually gets invested back into the club. So you're like, okay, there's a leak somewhere here. Like, their owners are actually taking out too much out of their piece of the pie. So do I want new ownership? Yes, but in a different setup, where I've always said I think football shouldn't be treated as a business. Football isn't the same as a business. Like, you can't treat Man United PLC the same as you would an Amazon or a bloody any high street shop. They're different, because the whole point of private companies is you have choice. It's free market, but with football clubs, it's not. Like, you're assigned your football club as a child and you stick with it. Like, there isn't free choice. So football has to be run differently. But would I want to see Glazers out for another businessman come in? No. But deep down, I think every fan would. There's a little bit of every fan that would be like, oh, it'd be great if we had Man City's owners who just have unlimited money and just buy the league. But I think it's bigger than just switching owner. It's switching structure of how football clubs are run. Like,
do you think that's why that Man City probably hasn't been under fire as much, and Chelsea, is that their fans and probably the people surrounding it can see that they make a concerted effort to reinvest whatever it is that they make back into the team, back into the club?
I think that's the big difference. Like, you cannot, no Chelsea fan or Man City fan could look you straight in the eye and say, someone's making money off our club here. Where I think Man United and Arsenal are funding some NFL teams, some American sport teams, and you're like, there's not an equal amount of investment. Like, we look at the investment of Man United. Yeah, they've made some bad signings, and they've done some weird decisions, like the Alexis Sanchez deal, and like there are some ones which are, for me, are forgivable because at least you're trying. Like, they brought in Alexis Sanchez, gave him a ridiculously expensive contract, but at least they tried to do that. But you then get summers where you're like, hang on, we spent hardly any money here. We're talking about record-breaking shirt deals with Adidas, and it's like, where's this money going? And it's going outside of the club, which is the issue.
Dan, do you earlier when I was thinking about this, and I was wondering, what I don't think we talk about owners as much, like just in England and football, as much as we do, like if you follow American sports. Owners are often talked about at length. About we know their names and we know things like that. I almost think about it like referees. Is it better when an owner's like a referee during a football match where you don't hear anything from them? They just kind of let things go on, or do you think it's like negative if you hear like heaps and heaps about them?
I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. Like, you look at Mike Ashley. Everyone knows who Mike Ashley is. Everyone knows he runs, at Newcastle. Everyone knows that he is what he is, and he's done what he's done to the club. But he's got a voice and he talks a lot and he's very much out there. You look at Joel Glazer and the Glazers, who haven't said a word for 16 years since they bought the club, and now after the Super League thing, the first ever thing they've ever said was, want to rebuild some trust and we're really sorry. And it's like, well, rebuild what? The fans are like, what trust? What are you on about? Well, we don't even know who you are. I've not heard from you for literally nearly 2 decades. You've not said a single word. You've never been in the spotlight. You've never done an interview. You've never so much as said anything, commented on a win or anything. And now you're just going to go and do this. And as Mark said, we know over that time, there's been tons of protests, and there's been lots of failed protests. There's that one where there was meant to be that big walkout in the Wolves game a couple of years ago. That never happened. There was the green and gold protest.
Yeah, the green and gold. I was going to say the guy behind you wore the green and gold flag.
Exactly. So, and Cantona, all of them were wearing green. There's been loads of protests over the years. I think the reason the United one was really interesting, is caught the attention and is what it, as big as it is because this isn't just United fans going, oh, we're really angry about the European Super League and we're just more angry than everyone else, we're going to make more of a fuss. This is years and years of anger and frustration and just feeling like the club's been neglected. So they make jokes. All the banners were jokes around, it's raining money, but it's also raining in the stadium because no one's fixing the leaks. And, the paint's coming off the walls, and they haven't invested in the training ground for 15, 16 years. You've got Liverpool rebuilding stands. You've got Man City building academies. You've got Chelsea funding the local. United are doing nothing, as Mark said. They're just taking as much money as they can and letting it run and stay afloat. And yeah, they've won some stuff, and it's Man United. And of course, revenues have been massive because they went public and they had Ed Woodward and JP Morgan backing them. But they've got £1.5 billion worth of debt that the company's built on now. And so I think, I don't think this was just a European Super League thing. This was a culmination. And that was like the final straw. Everyone's like, are you kidding me? After all of that, you're now going to go and just take our football, the last thing you've left us, which is at least we've got our football, which is competitive, which we still feel like we've got some say over. You're now going to go and take that from us as well. Are you kidding me? And I think it was just that's taken it to this level now.
Rory, obviously, you have been an ardent sort of person against Arteta and the way that Arsenal's kind of managed themselves. How much blame can you put towards the owners? Like, obviously, Stan Kroenke is in no one's good books. You've followed Arsenal for years and years and years and years.
Yeah, I think you can put a lot of blame towards the owners because Arteta and to a lesser extent Solskjaer as well. They're both symptoms of owners that don't really care in terms of they don't care from day to day how the company or how the football club has been run. They admittedly don't know anything about the sport. and they've left people in charge who, quite frankly, aren't football people. You know, like they've left like people like Peter Kenyon at United and people like this Vinay at Arsenal. They don't know anything about football. They'll admit that they don't know anything about football. And then you see things like the situation at United where after Carrick and Scholes retired and got older, United didn't have a proper centre mid for so long, like for about 4 years. And I remember even the year they went and got Van Persie, I remember thinking, well, that's a bit of a strange signing. Although he then went on to do amazing, I thought it was a really strange signing that there was gaping holes all over the rest of the team. But they went and added another attacking player. The same way that Arsenal went out and got Pepe, but there's still massive holes in the middle of Arsenal's midfield. Arsenal did not sign a holding midfielder from when Gilberto Silva retired or left, right the way up until probably we signed Herrera. Like, I know you can kind of say Alex Song was kind of a holding midfielder, and so was Flamini, but they weren't up to the standard to play for Arsenal. Alex Song was a centre-back and always fancied himself as more of a passer than a ball winner. And Flamini was never really up to the standard of Arsenal. So for me, that type of mismanagement is a symptom of an owner that either doesn't care or isn't knowledgeable enough. If I think about it like this, me, Mark and Danny, we're not really basketball fans. If someone gave us a basketball franchise now and said, by the way, that's your, let's take the Denver Nuggets, for example. If somebody gave the Denver Nuggets to me, Dan and Mark, we would probably spend the next week researching how it's run, where we need to finish, the rules, the types of players we need to attract, speaking to the fans, finding out what the team needs to move forward. The Glazers and the Kroenkes have done none of that. They've treated the football clubs almost like a buy-to-let property. They've bought it, they've rented it out, and they've just let the place fall into disrepair, both literally and theoretically, because Arsenal's ground is exactly the same as well. You've seen a big crack down the cannon at the ground. That's just been
I've often asked you guys to do certain things for the pod, so you've given yourself a bit too much credit saying you do all this research. If you were given a basketball team,
yeah, well, no, but why are you going to give us a basketball team then?
I just heard I was getting some nuggets, so I was like, oh, some of those.
Do you see what I'm saying though?
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, and it's a weird one with ownership, because you're like, all right, these guys are people that buy clubs aren't. These are people that have a lot of stuff going on. So you think, all right, what's your reasoning behind getting this team? Is it purely financial? Do you know anything about it? Do you have a team that's going to help you? You know,
I think it's clear that it's not because of their love of the sport that they've got the team.
You know, when you hear about this guy from Spotify who's interested in buying Arsenal, what sort of thing does that do for you? Because it's different than hearing about a manager that's going to come in. You know, if a manager comes in and he's not very good, it's very easy to get rid of him. But they have an influence on the team as how they're going to perform on the pitch. Same thing as an owner. But if an owner buys a club, it's very, very difficult to get them out.
What I will say though is, let's say that this Spotify guy, is it Daniel Eck is his name?
Something like that.
Let's say that he buys
Michael Van Gogh for a sec, but yeah.
Let's say he buys the football club. It doesn't matter how much money he throws at it. If he's still letting people do the signings that either don't have the team's best interest at heart or aren't knowledgeable enough. Like, I would even debate that Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal have had money spent on the first team. They spent £72 million on Nicolas Pepe. They gave Willian. They made him the 5th highest paid winger in the league at the age of 32. They gave him a 3-year contract on 200 grand a week. The money's there, but the money and the appointments of managerial and coaching staff are in the hands of non-football people. So if you gave
I think that's really interesting, because David Dean is, I think it was probably 2006, 2007-ish time but he was obviously co-chairman. He ran
him
Arsenal.
And a guy called Fisman as well. Him and a guy called
they ran Arsenal, and they understood football. And there's a reason they now work at the FA and do all of that stuff, because they know football. And the moment he sold up and left, or pushed out, left, whatever it was, the new owners came in. There's been mismanagement ever since. I think David Gill was another one at United who. He was a football person. He knew it. There's a reason the FA want him involved in what they're doing, because he understands business, he understands football. And I mean, I've gone on for years, you know this, because you can probably go back to our first ever pod. Ed Woodward for me was just a dire hire because he's not a football person, right? He was a finance guy that worked at JP Morgan, that came in to help make sure that when they went public, they did it right. But he was given the running of the club. And the reason the Sanchez deals and all that things happened is because And Sanchez, all right, should have been better, but wasn't. But there was lots of like Falcao deal, the Di Maria stuff, lots of stuff that just went horribly wrong. And Arsenal had the same thing. And I think it comes from the top.
Yeah.
If you don't have owners that give a shit, and they just hire people who are just there to basically make some money,
Basically, money men. Yeah.
Make sure that financially the club is okay, and they don't really care much or know that much about football. Then you rely heavily on the coaches and the manager. And United got away with it with Ferguson, and Arsenal got away with it with Wenger because they knew it. They were old school. They understood how to run the club. The moment you take those out, it becomes very, very difficult. It's why United have churned through managers, and Arsenal the same. Yeah. And they've landed with Solskjaer and what's his face, because they know the club.
I think not enough's actually made about how much of a bad. We're at the stage now where Arteta's doing the worst. I mean, not enough is being made.
They're not doing enough job talking about how bad Arteta's doing.
Well,
I think everyone should be Arteta out after Thursday.
100%.
Basically, after he blamed Martinelli for Ceballos' red card, that's the last straw, isn't it?
He's nuts.
Martinelli is along with Saka, Arsenal's best prospect.
Yeah.
And it's like,
what did he exactly say? Can you remind us? Because I didn't hear that.
He said, Ceballos was on a yellow card. And he said, we knew Ceballos was likely to get a second yellow card, so we asked Martinelli to warm up to sub off Ceballos, but Martinelli took too long to get ready. He said Martinelli took too long to get ready, so Ceballos got the second yellow card in that time. There's probably some truth. You see when these footballers, they're like, quick, get on. And then they're like, they haven't even got their socks on. Like,
they've not got their boots on. They got nothing on. Yeah.
That's just, he said so many weird things now. And it is clear that he's completely out of his depth. I always go back to the Gary Neville thing. And when he said Gary Neville realised when they played Atletico Madrid that it was the equivalent of being strangled by a snake. And he said Simeone was looking at him as if to say, I know you're a chancer. And bluffers always get found out.
Yeah, Arteta looks the part though. Like he does. Like when you see him on the sideline, he does look a manager.
Because basically he looked. But then Alex Ferguson looked like an old geezer and was more successful than any manager in history.
By that reckoning, Scott Parker should be the best manager in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Scott Parker.
But there is a reason why certain managers get longer in the job than others because they do look.
They're not English.
Yeah. I mean, Carlo Ancelotti doesn't look the part. But he's probably the most qualified manager other than Pep in the Premier League.
And Ollie.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to another bloke. Another bloke that looks the part is Gareth Southgate and his nice vest as a manager. The Euros, they've said that they can have 3 extra players in their team for the squad, so the workload and the labour just isn't as intense on the players during this period. And also, I don't know how early it was before, but I just realised just looking into this, they can also have 5 substitutes per game, which is good. So I've looked at this England squad that I'm going to read out to you now is what I've seen on their squad. So I'm assuming this is just the 23-man squad that they had for the last few games. We've got Pope, Henderson and Johnston in goal. Mings, Dyer, Walker, Maguire. We've got, is that Dele Alli? No, that's Reece James, sorry. Ben Chilwell, Luke Shaw, John Stone, Trippier, Rice, Mount, Jude Bellingham, Lingard, Phillips, Ward-Prowse, Kane, Calvert-Lewin, Foden, Ollie Watkins, and Raheem Sterling. With the 3 extra places, who do you think is most deserving? And actually, do you think there's going to be anyone that's going to drop out to leave more space for more people? Go on, Dan. I know you're jumping at a bit for this one. You're on mute, Dan.
Sorry, I'm not jumping at the bit. I was just trying to remember the names you were just saying.
You're the one that asked this question. So.
We've all been putting questions into our WhatsApp chat, and then Danny was like, "Oh, we're not going with my question." Then I was like, "Oh, you're keen on this question?"
Yeah, I'm not prepared. Sorry. Jesus. Look at this.
I was asking out of interest. No, what I mean is, I wasn't prepared for you to read out a team. You to have to think of who you've missed out of that team. Because I don't know what team you just read out.
No Maddison, no Grealish.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I did have a look at it, and I think where we struggled in previous competitions and where we're weak. Obviously, we've got Harry Kane, and Harry Kane is going to start as our number 9. And then there's quite a lot of attacking players. You've got your Sanchos and your Rashfords and your Sterlings and whoever. But I do actually think there is a place for Greenwood because I think that Greenwood can play across the front line. I think he's a finisher and can have an impact. And I think he gets overlooked, but he's been pretty impressive for United.
He's so young. How old is Greenwood?
Yeah, but you say that, like, and I know there's always one. So there was Theo Walcott, there was Loftus-Cheek. There's always the one sort of wild card that a manager takes. They feel like they need to take one. I don't know why you wouldn't take him. Only because when too often we're in games and we're out of ideas. Kane's not scored a penalty and Rashford's not playing well, or Sterling's not playing well. What do? You're out of ideas. But Greenwood, I think, can actually come on and have an impact. He can actually do something, take players on, or at least shoot and score. So I would have Greenwood. I think you're
slightly. I do like Greenwood, and I like his prospects. I do think you might be over egging what he's been able to do this season a little bit, particularly in recent times. I don't like. He's not been as prolific as you think. Like you wanted him in the squad so eagerly.
I don't think I'm not saying you start him over Kane. Like what I mean is I'm looking at, you've got an opportunity to bring a couple of extra players. You need something that's a bit different. Like for the same reason I would bring Calvert-Lewin probably over a Watkins or Ings, because he's different to Kane a bit. He can win headers. He can play a bit differently. You look at the kind of players, we haven't got a huge abundance of players that can play on the right wing. And we also haven't got an abundance of players who are good finishers, or at least could come on and potentially score goals. We really haven't. When you look at that list, you're naming people like Ward-Prowse and Dyer and Calvin Phillips and people like that. You think when we're 2-1 down in the game, who are we going to really bring on? Look at
Sancho can play on the right. And most of these players now, these little inside forward type players, they can usually whereas before, like back in the day of Giggs and Beckham, and then for Arsenal you had like Overmars and Parler, and then later you had Pires and Ljungberg. Players were stuck to one wing. Whereas now when you play with like three in behind the striker, a lot of the time, a player like, for example, Smith Rowe, or who was I thinking of? Phil Foden. They can play in any of those three positions behind the striker. David Silva back in the day as well. You know, so I'm not too really worried about needing one player for the right specifically and one player for the left. Like, I'd happily play all three of them. You know, players that type of player. I'd happily take 4 or 5 of them and just rotate them based on who's playing the best.
Is Rashford then just out of the picture now? Do you think there's no chance of him sort of being added?
I think he starts. He's on my starting. He's on my starting 11.
Who, Rashford?
Why?
Absolutely. Yeah, but Rashford wasn't one of the names that I read out in the last.
So you're dropping Sterling.
I can't remember all the names you read out.
But you're going to drop Sterling then? If Rashford,
absolutely, I'll drop Sterling. Sterling's not even making it into Pep's team for the big games now. He's being dropped himself.
And you'd also put Rashford in ahead of Sancho. Or you
well, no, that's my point, right? So you've got Sancho on one wing, who can play he plays best off the right. You've got Rashford, who plays best off the left. You've got Kane, who plays best down the middle, and then you've got Foden, who can basically play anywhere behind any of them. So you've got a perfect balance.
When you play Grealish on the left, if you're going to have
I would play Grealish, but Grealish isn't going to be fit. Like, he's not played football in 3 months. The first game of the tournament is in less than 6 weeks. So there's no chance. There's no chance Grealish is going because he's not fit. So, yeah, I don't think he's in question, but that's why I look at that and go, well, if Sancho's having an off game, I'm not going to put Rashford out on the right. He doesn't do very well. I'm not going to put Sterling out on the right. He doesn't do very well. If we do need someone out to, I don't know, play with some width or whatever, who have we got? We haven't really got anyone. Maybe Mark.
You can stick Saka out there.
Mark, who do you think's on the outside looking in?
Well, the obvious one, which no one's mentioned, has to be Trent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost don't even want to say that about him. I almost don't want to say that about him.
Right? You say he's the outside.
I think. What do you mean? He's not been in the last however many England squads.
But he will. Yeah, but he will be. Like, that's just Southgate doing it. Southgate, of course, he'll be in the squad. Like, it's Trent. Of course.
The one that annoys me is, like, I think Southgate knows he's starting 11 plus probably 2 or 3 that are pushing the starting 11. So when we talk about extending the squad by 3 extra players, I want to see like variety. So I want to say, okay, what do those 3 players bring? And like, I'm being a bit biased here, but I do think Wan-Bissaka, because I'm like,
I like Wan-Bissaka.
If we go 1-0 up, if we get further in the tournament, or even in the group, if we play a decent team, we go 1 or 2-0 up, and there's half an hour to go. I think Wan-Bissaka coming off the bench is not a bad shout. We've got
Wan-Bissaka's the best defensive 1v1 fullback that we have, and it's not close.
But
I do think Southgate's a bit too aspirational in like, oh, we're going to play a certain style of football. We're going to play attacking football. We're going to play along the floor, this style for 90 minutes plus potential extra time. And you're like, sometimes you do need to see out games. Sometimes you do need to be like, okay, we are playing a team that's better than us. If we want to win the thing, at some point we're going to play a team better than us. So
can I ask you a question?
Please.
Do you think that this like bringing in an extra 3 players, the first thing that I thought when I read that was, to be honest with you, just what bollocks? Because every tournament, 23 man, we take 23 players with us, and in 2010 it was Stephen Warnock. In 2006 it was Theo Walcott. But there's always one player. It's sometimes Aaron Lennon. I think it might have been 1 year as well, who just doesn't even get on the pitch anyway. So all we're doing is taking an extra 3 players who just aren't going to get on the pitch.
We've always had a manager. We've always had a manager that. But we've always had a manager who's not liked one of the big players, and this tournament
This
it
is
seems
the
like
same
it could be
with
Trent.
Grealish as well, though, and Madison.
It could be great. It could be.
But
Yeah.
Rory, I think you have to also take into account, this isn't necessarily the squad that everyone's going to be playing on the pitch. This is like training. This is things that you're going to do.
But then how do you do 11 like that's another thing. The idea of taking a 23-man squad is that if you want to do full-sided pitch training sessions, i.e. you want to do like you want to set one team up, like if we're playing Colombia, for example, you have 11 and then a spare goalkeeper in case one of the keepers gets injured. Taking an extra, I don't know. I just think that it's another one of these stupid rules that they're bringing in and using COVID as kind of like an excuse. And
it is though, because if you look across football or sports, so many players just getting injured. So they're taking into account, they're just having more bodies.
But they're getting injured because they're playing like 3 games a week and they're playing at ridiculous times.
And that's why you need more players. That's why they're doing.
But professional athletes need a routine,
they're soft.
And there's no, but professional athletes need routine, and there's no routine anymore because you could be playing at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday.
It's not Rory. It's not Rory. It's the overplaying. It's lack of rest. It's just not being able to do the things they need to do to take care of their body. That's what it is.
But that's because they're using COVID as an excuse. But if they brought back
it
some
is a good
structure,
excuse, Rory.
it isn't.
It's the exact reason why.
They should have either postponed the Euros or stretched out the season if they cared about players' safety. But it's not.
But that's not going to happen, Rory. So this is the next best option. They could put it back further, but I don't think anyone would.
Let's be honest. If it's the last group game and we need a point to go through, do you really think he's dropping Kane because he's tired?
No, but it's not about that. It's now that there's 5 subs. Like if you look at it's been a bit different in the Premier League, but if you look at around Europe and the clubs that have the best squads have typically done much better, and they've done better than they otherwise would because there's been lots of subs, there's been lots of injuries. They have a massive advantage. So I actually, ironically, the downside to all of this is it gives a massive advantage to the Germanys, the Spains, the Englands, the Frances, because we've got huge squads, and for our countries, it's like, oh my God, who are we going to drop? Like the few people that don't make it, the Madisons and the Grealishes of the world and Trents or whoever, they'd get in any other squads, but they're just not, because we've got a good squad. It's unfair on all of the smaller nations, but they have to do it.
What I will say about us, and you mentioned like a Spain, is that if you look at our midfield, and I was actually talking to Chris about this yesterday, if you look at our midfield options, Jordan Henderson's definitely going to start. So is Ward-Prowse, maybe, and so is Declan Rice, maybe, and maybe Calvin Phillips. So you're talking about those 4. You can compare and contrast that with Spain, who have Thiago, Rodri, Fabian Ruiz, Sergio Canales, Dani Olmo. Like, you look at those 4 against those 5 that I've just mentioned. Maybe we're not as strong as we think we are, especially in the middle.
Oh no, they were play it down too. I hate playing 5-a-side when you haven't got a player down. Like,
we're not winning because of our midfield. We're winning in spite of our midfield. That's all.
Yeah. But I think games are won and lost in the midfield. That's my opinion, though. I know that a lot of people would
but if
disagree with that.
You're in opposition to having more players, what is it that we lose then, in your opinion, from gaining more players into the squad?
Having a lot. Do you remember when Man City first got their money and they signed like loads and loads of players? I said they won't win the league yet because there's no way that you can keep 30 players happy, because then there's going to be players. I mean, think how boring it must be going to a tournament and being locked up in a training camp for most of the day. Now think how boring it would be by having 6 or 7 players that know they're never getting on the pitch. So what are they there for? To go to training, to knock about, to play pool, to play the PlayStation. And it's going to be very, very hard to keep 25 players motivated. Is it 25 or 26?
26. But
26, at
there's more
least 8 of
subs.
those players aren't going to see the pitch.
But they might, because you might get injuries and there are more subs. So all you need, like the difference, we haven't got huge depth in certain positions. So there'll be players who are thinking, do you know what? It's only going to take one injury and I've got a chance. They'd rather go than not. Of course they would.
I guess I just think that it just seems. I mean, I just don't know how you take a group of blokes in their 20s and 30s away. I mean, there's a few teenagers there, and you keep them motivated when there are going to be players that won't play. There will be and I will actually, if anyone wants to put it out there to the listeners, I will have a bet of a tenner with anyone that we have either 5 or more players that don't see any playing time.
But that's not revelation. Like, you're just bringing more people just so you have more bodies. Maybe they won't. I mean, we could very well be out within 3 games, and then
I don't think that's going to happen.
There'll be more players that don't get that game time.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we're going to go out of the group stage. I think we have too much quality. But
and we're at home.
And we're at home as well. I don't
It's
think
already here then. So it must be coming home. It's already here.
Yeah, and we have. That's what I mean. Like, you look at Foden at the minute. Who are you dropping Foden for?
No one.
Probably no one. And you're going to want him on the pitch all the time. So even if someone like, I was going to say, someone like Dele Alli would end up going. There's no way you're going to bring on Dele Alli for Foden.
Yeah, I don't think I think Jesse Lingard gets in over Dele Alli.
Or Jesse Lingard. Realistically, do you want, or Messi Lingard, as Mark calls it?
Yeah,
do you want Jesse Lingard anywhere near your starting 11 or anywhere near?
Not starting 11, but I don't. But I also don't subscribe. Yeah, I don't subscribe to the idea that anyone's unsubbable. I think that cost us in the Euros with Kane.
Yeah.
I would have subbed Kane many a times.
Well, against Croatia
for Vardy and look now, it isn't like Vardy turned out to be a one-hit wonder. He's been our top English goal scorer.
I was actually going to say I'd be more up for taking someone like Vardy, because at least Vardy gives you something that other strikers don't.
Yeah, the problem is that Southgate just won't. Southgate has certain players he can't drop.
He's also retired. I mean, Vardy's unless he says to him, by the way, you're going to start every game. Of course, he's not going to go.
Yeah,
he's
but
like,
you heard why
do you think he was told to retire, or do you think he retired of his own?
No, he retired because he knew he wasn't going to get in over Kane. That's the reality, and he didn't want to sit on the bench for years.
No, but he would have if he thought he would get 20 minutes, 30 minutes. He wasn't even getting that. He was getting no time. That's the difference. For me, I wouldn't sub a goalkeeper, or unless I have to, the centre backs.
Oh, I don't like subbing fullbacks either.
No, well, it depends, because they can be more tactical.
I think your back 4 has to stay there. I think your back 4 has to be
centre
backs.
Then it is tactical, because now the wing backs are such an important role in most teams.
No, everyone else is up for dropping. I wouldn't watch Foden have a stinker of 70 minutes and be like, I'm keeping him on.
No,
for potential good 20.
I'd go along with that. But then I think that out of all the players you could bring on for Foden, there's going to be probably like an option of 4 different players to bring on. And I think you're going to always end up bringing on the same one again and again and again.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing. Like, we see teams, some of the best teams in Europe have their same subs. Like when Leicester won the league, you knew Okazaki was coming off at Ajala. So but then also, sometimes you can say to a player, empty the tank, you're coming off after 60.
Also, don't write off the fact that you've seen it with Luke Shaw this year when they went and bought Telles. Number one, why are you buying Telles? We've already got Luke Shaw. Some players respond really well to competition. Some players will look around and go, God, there's some really good players. I need to really put it out here to get my starting spot.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll do that. Should we do our results league, unless you've got anything else you want to do last minute?
Who did we decide? I said Greenwood.
No one. Basically, we left the extra 3 spaces open. We didn't get anywhere close to that.
Rory, did you actually pick anyone?
I didn't. No.
Well, you don't want to, so that's fine.
Yeah, I don't even want him to do it. Yeah, that's my.
His choice is no one.
That's
my. Because I thought about it before the pod, and I was like, well, annoyingly, because I had one Bissaka, Trent, and Greenwood. I was like, well, 2 are United, so I'm feeling a bit biased there. So.
But I think that's right. I think because if you're going to take more players, you need something a bit different.
Take Saka. Come on now.
And Saka was also on my shortlist as an option as well, because he can play in a lot of positions.
Madison. The funny thing is, Smith Rowe now is never going to have an England career because he's the same age as Foden. So he's in a bit of a Michael Carrick situation where he knows he's probably going to end up with 10 caps.
Well, like you said, Rory, it's not about like players literally playing the exact same position. You know, some of these younger players, the way it goes. At the top end of the pitch, there's so much rotation.
I just think it's going to be very tough. It's going to be very tough for Smith Rowe. Competition.
Probably.
It's tough for
probably
him in
right.
Arsenal at the minute. So-
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
But that'll be for their next Euro sort of World Cup.
Yeah, it's a bit premature. Remember, there's a World Cup next year as well, so we're only a year away from that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Results League. So last week, I think the game's gone on now. I don't know what the score is. I picked Wolves to beat West Brom 2-0.
It's currently 1-1.
Oh, dearie me. You picked. Well, this is good for you then, because you picked West Brom to beat Wolves 2-1, and Mark, you picked Crystal Palace to beat Man City 2-1. That was obviously a throwaway. You're just giving up the season, haven't you?
Well, I half thought Man City would rest some players mid.
Well, they did. They rest their entire first team.
But I saw the 7 players they brought in were valued at over 500 million, and it's like, because someone. This is the level playing field fans have argued for, that the team about to win the league bring 500 million pound worth of reserves on.
I know, it's funny how like some of these other teams were like, we need to keep Man City's and the Chelsea's in. It's like, no, let them get out so we have a chance of doing something, you know. But yeah, that was more of a throwaway, but there you go. So this week, I'll go first. We're going to pick 2 this week because we need to catch up. And also, according to Fantasy Football, it's a double game week. I don't know if they'll throw the Man United Liverpool game in this week. Probably not. So I'm going to go. My first team, I've gone for Fulham to beat Burnley at home, and they're going to win 1-0. I think. We'll see. Should I do my second team, or do you want to go through the first week and then?
No, do your second.
Yep. All right. The second team is Crystal Palace to face Sheffield United away. I think that's a good choice. And I'm going to say that they are going for a 2-0 victory away from home. Danny boy, you wrote yours down. Read it on the.
I did. I was just looking at the scores. It's over, isn't it?
Yes.
There's 4 weeks. There's 4 weeks left. To be fair, though, Chris, you're on 28 and Mark, you're on 27. So that wooden spoon is all to play for.
Yeah.
Right, I went for Leicester to beat Newcastle at home 3-1. Leicester in good form. Newcastle they know they're safe, so they don't care. And Wolves to beat Brighton 1-0. I think Brighton now know they're safe. They'll also be on the beach.
So
Marcus?
I am going Sheffield United to beat Palace. And I'm going to go for a 2-0 win.
You've basically guaranteed me the one there. You're terrible at this.
And
you say 2-1.
And then my next one, I needed to save Wolves for next week, and I needed to save Leicester. So it's got to be Spurs, and Spurs are away to Leeds. So I'm doing Spurs to win 4-2 away to Leeds.
we haven't even heard a word about Gareth Bale's hat-trick this week.
Yeah, it's getting to contract renewal time. He's got to up his game, isn't he?
Well, do you know what I realised? We've been singing Pogba's praises for weeks and weeks now. Going, all of a sudden he's got so good. Of course, contract negotiations are ongoing. Of course they are.
Pogba got good the moment you and Chris said he wasn't good. Ali Pali.
He heard
the week
us.
after he just got good. That was it.
But that's because he's in his last year of his contract, which no one didn't realise.
I don't know. Can I just say one thing about? Can I just say one thing about the footballing weekend? Just hopefully we don't go on too long about this. Did you see? Fleck stamping on Reguilon's head?
No.
Unbelievable. I mean, me and Rory was watching this, and I just thought I couldn't believe it because, he's gone into a challenge with Reguilon. Basically, Reguilon's down on the floor, and he's stepping over him, and steps on his shoulder, on his body. His foot slid down, ended up stamping on the side of his head. And, obviously he's rolling around on the floor, as he should do. VAR went and looked at it. The referee also had a look at it. No yellows, no reds. Now, I thought that was absolute bollocks because I said to Rory, if you get VAR gives handballs for whether it's on purpose or it's accidental, I think Fleck stepped on Reguilon on purpose. But even if it's accidental and he's absolutely trodden on his head, you could see he's got these massive scratch marks on the side of his head. Surely, if that's even accidental, a card is warranted. Like if you're going to give,
I didn't think it was a sending off. I didn't think it was a sending off at all.
How could you step on someone's head and it not be red, not even a yellow?
if you've ever landed on someone's shoulder, it's so hard to balance on someone's shoulder. If you land on someone's shoulder like that, your foot can go anywhere.
But don't be landing on people's shoulders. Like,
But then what's he doing down there?
I have no idea.
Like-
you ask
like-
him.
Like if I jump head first at your feet and you end up kicking me, that's not your fault. It's my fault. What's my head doing down there? That's the way
what happened.
I think it's too sort of like it's too wishy-washy to say that it's a clear and obvious error. I think VAR got it right. I think you can't prove.
I think he's looking at him. Yeah. No, I think that is. Yeah. I think.
Brutal, isn't it?
I don't agree with the if it's accidental, it's still red, but I think there's enough there. He looks down at him, so I can see it now.
He looks down at him after though. I haven't got it in front of me.
Yeah.
So.
No, he looked down on the way down. Yeah.
Do you not think that with VAR being what it is, and the amount of decisions that they've given based on whether something's done on purpose or not, if the referee didn't have VAR, fair enough.
You can't confuse
the fact that he's gone back and looked at VAR and he's not given anything. I think that's ridiculous.
I think you can tell someone's stamped by how their foot reacts after. His foot goes to the floor.
Gone down.
If you've ever stepped on someone, you almost hop away, don't you? Like you don't.
Yeah, that's true. But there's a number of reasons
tell.
why you could send off. The only reason every sending off has a reason. The referee has to write the actual foul.
Yeah, like Newcastle.
That would be serious. That would be serious foul play. So that foul would have had to have constituted serious foul play.
The guy's got funny marks on his head.
Do you think that was serious foul play?
I think yeah.
I'm with Chris. I've just watched that. That's a red card.
How is that not red?
I think that's because that's deliberate. Like
I think it's deliberate.
That's what I'm saying.
I think it's deliberate.
It's only serious foul play if it's deliberate.
Yeah.
Look at his legs. He's staring right. He's staring right.
Yeah.
He hasn't lifted his foot. Nothing. I don't think he needs to get him in the head. He needs to get him in the arm, but he slipped and then got him in the head. But that is absolutely deliberate. He could have got his foul away.
With all the decisions that VAR's been making this season, I just don't understand how they've just allowed that to go on. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Just another instance of VAR being.
What I will say is, if Lo Celso had stayed at Betis, he wouldn't be in the Premier League and wouldn't be getting kicked like that. So it serves him right.
There's Regulon, wasn't it?
Regulon.
Oh, was it Regulon? Yeah. I thought it was Lo Celso.
Yeah.
No.
I'd had a few years.
It'd have a different kind of rake, the farmer.
Hang on, they both came from teams in Seville. They both came from Spain.
Farmers.
Both, yeah.
Go on, Rory. You've got a lovely game for us. You were well excited about this yesterday.
I have. So I have a game. For anyone that knows me, you'll know how passionate I am about squad numbers. So this game has joined my love of football with my love of squad numbers.
Did you give Chris some revision tips?
No, I didn't actually. I didn't. So
just because I've been killing it lately, you're going to tell me that this isn't going to happen.
So what I've done is also I'd like to dedicate this game to two people. First of all, a friend of the show and a listener of the show by the name of Robert Murphy, who I played football with him in uni. I have never met anybody who is he is a scumbag. I have never met anybody who is as good at remembering squad numbers as this guy. You could say to him Paolo One Chop, Derby County, and he would go
29?
He was number 29 or something like that.
Oh.
He will do it with any player that's played in the Premier League. Unbelievable. And the second person is another listener of the show by the name of Charlie Griffiths, who is what can only be described as a squad number terrorist. I've seen his football manager set up. There'll be right backs wearing number 9. There'll be strikers wearing number 2. There'll be left wingers wearing number 5. And he honestly does not give a single fuck. And for that reason, this is also dedicated to him. Because squad number terrorism will not be tolerated on this podcast either. So
or any form of terrorism.
Or any form of terrorism. Thank you very much, Chris. So I'm going to give you 12 players. These are all the one thing these players have in common is that they're all players that I absolutely love. Whether it's someone who I've watched on TV or watched live, or they would all probably get into my top 20 of favorite players ever. Yeah. So
I know at least 2 of these.
Not all of them, though. Not all of them. Some of them are too obvious. So some I've got one round that's quite obvious, and then it gets progressively harder as we go through. So I'm going to choose who goes first.
Games like this, I prefer just difficult the whole way. So
yeah.
Well, like, when you get the obvious ones wrong, you're like,
I didn't know how good you lot were on squad numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Chris.
Like getting the first question on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
I'm going to name a player.
What, between 1 and 10?
I'm going to name a player and a team, and you're going to tell me what squad number they wore while they were playing for that team. If it's a player who has worn several different squad numbers for that team, I'll give you the dates.
Oh.
So I will say, for example, Frank Lampard between this date and this date. So there'll be no trick questions. So, for example, I know for a fact that David Beckham started off wearing 27, and then he wore 10, and then he wore 7. So there'll be dates, okay?
And 23.
And then 23 after that as well, yeah. So any questions before we start?
Nope. Let's go.
All right. First one is
Who
Christopher.
starts? No.
Christopher Alley is starting as the host. So the first one is Steven Gerrard, Liverpool, between September 04 and May 2015.
I'm not good with numbers, by the way. Squad numbers, no chance. So
Maths.
not mine. Yeah, maths,
Yeah.
quick maths.
Carried a 2.
Yeah. I'm gonna go for. I've got 2 numbers in my head. I don't know, man. Don't do that.
He's
Dan.
synonymous with this number. I thought this was pretty easy.
I ain't got a
Yeah.
frigging clue. I'm gonna go for number 6.
No, it was 8.
8.
Oh.
You've had a
I
mare there,
don't
mate.
pay attention to
You're
this.
in trouble. You're in trouble with this game.
You're
Chris.
bang in
Gerrard.
trouble with this quiz. Right,
I
second
feel
one
like
is.
he used to wear 4 for England. For some
He
reason.
did used to wear 4 because
He did.
Lampard always wore 8.
Yeah, he did.
Tell Lampard's a sort of geezer that would have kicked off if he weren't allowed to wear 8. So Stevie probably just went, let him have it. The second one for Danny is Dennis Bergkamp, Arsenal.
Number 10.
Correct.
Oh no, I would have known that.
The third one for Mark is Cesc Fabregas between 06 and 2011 for Arsenal.
That's. Oh. I've got 2 numbers in my head. I'm going to go 6.
No, he was number 4.
4, yeah.
Yeah, he wore 10 for Spain and 4 for Arsenal.
I was like, it's 4 or 6. I know it was a
Right.
defensive.
This one, Chris, I'm apologising in advance because no way you getting this next one. Christopher Alley, Zinedine Zidane for Juventus.
Overrated player, Hall of Farmers. For Juventus, he wore number 17.
No, it was number 21.
Oh, it's close though.
I was just going to ask, can you hand these over? Can we get bonus points for answering?
No,
something?
No. I'm gonna do one at the end that will be like a tiebreaker. Okay,
Yeah,
Danny.
just because Dan, you won it, like, come
I
on.
think I say 4.
Danny, my favourite ever player, Riquelme at Barcelona.
Can I have the years, please, Rory?
He played for Barcelona in 2004.
Can you use it in a sentence, please?
Yeah. Use it in a libelous sentence.
Yeah, but it's the only, he only played at Barca for 1 season before they loaned him to Villarreal.
I know. Did he wear the same number at Villarreal
No,
as he
he
did
didn't.
it?
No, he didn't.
Oh,
Oh,
give
you
him a
shouldn't-
clue then.
Yeah, you
All
shouldn't have
right.
told me that. I was about
we
to
all
guess
get, we all get
number.
one clue.
Yeah, I was about to guess that number, Rory. You shouldn't have told me that. Okay, in that case, what would he have worn?
What shape is the number?
He
Is
must.
it round?
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm going to go with 8.
He wore 8 at Villarreal, 10 at Barcelona.
Oh,
Unlucky there.
how many
Okay.
points is that?
Well, at the minute, Chris and Mark have 0 and Danny
Danny on
has
1.
1. Right. Mark Williams, Xabi Alonso, Liverpool.
He was I want to say 16.
14. That's
14.
so unlucky.
Ah,
So
I was like
unlucky.
14, 15 or 16. I was like, which one?
Right. Chris Alley. My favourite ever Arsenal right back, Bakary Sagna.
Bakary Sagna. He was number. Let's go for. Let's go for number 5.
It was 3.
3.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought that was almost too obvious. I was like,
I
was
thought I must be
expecting a
wrong.
double
I was like,
bluff.
what?
Yeah.
I've only ever seen him in the 3, but maybe he started as a different number.
Dan,
no.
Danny, I don't know this stuff, man.
Right. Danny. Sergio Canales Betis from 2019 to now. So he signed with one number and he changed in 2019.
So I think he was a 6. Now he's 10.
Correct. He's pulled another one out.
Oh, Danny would have changed his mind if you left him long enough. He's got to say that's his answer.
Isn't it? Just say
Okay.
numbers, then it'll be like correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mark.
Number 10 on his shirt, number 1 in your heart, innit?
But yeah, exactly. Mark, Arjen Robben, Bayern Munich.
Robin. I just always have Robin as 11. But go on, I'll go 11.
It was 10.
10.
Oh.
He was actually,
Well, yeah.
I believe he was 15 at Chelsea because Duff had 11 and Joe Cole had 10.
Oh, right.
And
I thought he was 11 at Chelsea.
no, Duff had 11.
So then Ribery might have been 10 then.
No, Ribery was 7. Ribery was 7.
Ribery
Maybe
must-
7, yeah.
No, 7, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
All right. Last round. It's already
Last.
finished. Danny's already won. But I'm going to do the last round anyway because I
Hit
sat
the
here and did
post.
these earlier. Right. Chris Alley, Thomas Rosicky, to avoid a donut, to avoid a 0, Thomas Rosicky, Arsenal FC.
Well, I'm not one to avoid a donut, so Arsenal FC. I know it should be obvious, I know, but I don't know. I'm going to say number 7.
Correct.
Correct.
Yay!
Yes, funnily enough, for those who are watching on YouTube, I'm actually wearing Rosicky on the back of my shirt now.
Lovely.
Outrageous player. Right,
I was
Danny.
almost certain I knew that one. It's just a shame I don't get that donut.
Yeah. Danny. This is actually quite a hard one, but he wore this number all through his career. Michael Ballack.
13?
18.
What did you say?
13.
Correct. That is unbelievable. That is really good. That is very good. Mark.
Very good, Danny. Good boy.
Thank you. I voted because I get a gold star.
Well, that
Yeah.
one's actually. I think that's the most. That's
You
the
don't
most
see many
impressive.
13s, do you?
You don't see many.
No, but
13s.
that's why I remember it, because I don't know anyone else that's won 13. But he always, I remember at Chelsea, for Germany, wore 13.
Alessandro Nesta wore 13 as well. Always wore 13, which I thought was that number was synonymous with them two. And
Right,
last but not
let's-
least,
Let's hope it's Nesta.
easy one for Mark. Paul Scholes, United.
What year?
Between 97 and 2011.
18.
Correct. So at
He
the end
did
of
wear
the,
22 for that.
he did wear
random-
22 when he came back. Yeah, because Ashley Young had 18. At the end of that game, we have Chris and Mark on 1 each. Danny's absolutely battered it with 3. And the only one you got wrong was the Raquelme one, which he was really close on as well. So fair play.
Congratulations, Dan.
Well done.
Thank you. Prize in the post.
That was
Prize in
not
the post.
mine.
A prize is a football shirt of your choice for
Oh,
under 20
yes.
quid.
What a win.
For under a tenner.
I thought you meant for under 10s.
Yeah, for under 10s.
We'll do Champions League next week. We'll just chat about that next week. How about that? I think that gives us just front 3, back 4.
Correct.
Is that right? Anything else?
No.
It might. Oh, should I go? I'll go as I've started. If you don't mind, Rory, should I just go ahead?
Go for it.
Yeah, lovely. In my in my back 4, this week is sorry, I can't. I've just totally lost it. In my front 3 this week is my Sunday evenings, because they are now free for me to do what I like, because Line of Duty hit its finale this Sunday, and I think some fans
I
were
had to,
disappointed with the way that it ended.
I had to make sure I watched it because I knew it would be in your front 3 or back 4. So.
It was always going to be one or the other, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And is yours is your front 3 because you've got your Sundays back.
Yeah, so maybe that means we could, we don't have to rush the podcast. We could tack on an extra half an hour, 20 minutes. You know what I mean? If
Make it
not,
longer.
gets
Yeah.
confused about the time again, just crack on. Yeah, I know we've been aiming to try and get this podcast shorter, but we don't need to now. So we could go on for, at least another hour.
We could do 3 hours now. Brilliant.
Could do. The man you lot talk about. But did you watch the finale?
Unfortunately, I did.
Unfortunately.
Not a
Why?
fan.
Not a fan, no?
I just don't rate it at all. I've watched the first series and just.
I mean,
the first...
for me, it was the equivalent of the end of Game of Thrones. There's two things in my life that
I've seen
I've
it.
loved and hated simultaneously, and that has been Game of Thrones and now Line of Duty have made their way miraculously
feel
onto
like-
that same place.
I feel like every big series will have a disappointing ending, even if the ending's
That's
not
not-
bad. So like
That's not true at all.
Game of Thrones is like I can rewatch it and I'm like, okay, I can see what you've done here. It's just rushed. The story isn't necessarily bad. But with Line of Duty, I was like, okay, this is a bit. I wasn't really a fan of the ending. H wasn't an
Completely
H.
and utterly useless. I mean, what? I mean,
Like they randomly
haven't even got
decided
an
the last
excuse.
episodes to change previously known as H, but now known as the fourth man. You're like, no, he wasn't known as the fourth man. He's always been H. Like, when did you change this? Just to...
the whole thing was just that's the funny thing. Like Game of Thrones was rushed, and it's almost like they made this episode last week when they were like, "Oh, we've got to do something quickly because everyone's
too many
like,
theories have nailed it, innit?
Yeah, like it's like they didn't film this 2 years ago, which they did. So how on earth they managed to think that was going to be a good ending?
Well, Wolves and West Brom
Unbelievable.
finished 1-1, but I think that they did this ending to set up whatever the next season is. I think that's all. So I'll wait until
next season, is there?
There has to be.
There's no chance.
There has to be.
This was the last one.
There's no way. That wasn't the end.
Well, there has to be.
AC13's been this. Yeah, it's just gone.
Disbanded. Yeah, but it'll come back. Trust me. Yeah, it'll come back.
Now there has to be another one because of how it's left. Anyway, spoilers for whoever's not watched it.
In my back four this week is mistaken opinions. China has launched an app for citizens to report anyone who has mistaken opinions or denies the excellence of socialist culture. So the Chinese government has made an app where you can report people that you know who say unfavorable things about the Chinese government, about the Chinese Communist Party.
You'd be banging trouble, mate.
Never. I never say a bad word about China. Not me.
Can't complain.
Can't complain. There you go. So yeah. So now on this app, if anyone says anything that the Chinese government doesn't like, you can report them, which is a good thing because most people say snitches get stitches, but hopefully with this one they'll get some rewards. Really weird.
They'll do like a loyalty scheme, like you get points for people you snitch on.
It's like the amount of
one person away from a free coffee.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with it, but I mean, like, not to get too much into politics. My understanding is that that's how China basically do their communist thing, is that people just tell on each other. Which, I mean, if that's the way you want to do it, that's fine. But I feel like a bigger deal needs to be made out of stuff like this. It's absolutely insane.
It'll never work over here because grassing is just not acceptable in our culture.
Nah, man, you get banged up for that shit.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just no one likes a grass, do they?
No, but that's why we're all poor and they're all rich. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Oh, go on then.
So in my front three this week, I'm going for Boris, who has apparently said that within a couple of months there might be no more social distancing, which is I've read in literally 10 minutes on Sky News, on the Sky News website, because I needed something for my front three.
Yeah, that's good. Well, yeah, I mean, also you're the first person to put Boris in your front three this week, so I'm happy you've come out as a Tory.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't mean I like him, by the way. I want to caveat that.
Literally, that is what front three, back four is. You've just said you like Boris Johnson.
I like his decision. I'm
the same difference.
I don't necessarily like him. I just think,
you just like his policies and his party. Sure.
No, I don't like his policies or his party. I like this policy though. I like the fact that we might be able to go and sit inside a pub, maybe even have some dinner, socialize with our mates, and either fist bump or shake hands when we arrive and depart. All things that we took for granted for a long time.
Do you think people are going to shake hands again?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. Still shake hands, isn't it?
It's just a bit weird now. Like what? Oh, I mean, I'd still shake hands with you three if it was like a complete stranger.
I think if anything, you'd shake more hands because you're like, well, at least now people are in the habit of washing their hands.
Yeah,
it was
true. That's true. But there's going to be no like eating the peanuts off of a pub.
Off of the floor.
Yeah. I don't think people will be eating peanuts off of a bar in a pub anymore.
I want people to stop doing the whole elbow thing. I think that's a bunch.
Yeah, the elbow thing's lame.
That's just so dumb. It's like white people not knowing how to do a fist bump. They're like, let's do this. Let's actually get closer to each other.
I do prefer the forearm one. I think that's better
Nah,
than fist bump.
fist bump all
Yeah.
day.
No,
Yeah,
no,
well,
fist
it's
bump.
Not
What are you,
the
like
L
12
one
years
thing's
old?
weird.
Like,
It's like a weird gang sign or something. Like just
no,
people
not
bumping-
the L, just like the forearm.
I'm kind of with Mark. I quite like the
the forearm
that
one,
little
yeah.
Nah, it's
forearm
weird.
touch.
Yeah, the fist
that's
bump's
like
like some
NBA
12-year-old.
basketball
Spud me, blood. Spud
Yeah.
me. Yeah, come on. We're
We
You
could
know,
start doing
we're
the
grown
old.
men here. Like,
You could start doing the old Black Panther thing. That's quite a good way. That don't involve touching at all.
we're gonna
What?
do, or we could just bow like we're all martial artists.
do a hacker as we leave.
Danny.
What?
Right. Anyway, my back four, probably not for the first time, is the Football Association, related to something in particular that's happened this week. So remember when we were,
related?
it's football related.
Alright.
But remember when the Super League thing happened and we all said that the team should be deducted points. And a lot of high profile people came out and said, you can't deduct them points because the fans haven't done anything wrong. Well, this week, Sheffield Wednesday drew at the weekend, meaning that they're now 3 points from safety with one game to play. And and Rotherham are above them, have a game in hand. They need a miracle to stay up, basically. We're talking about a historical team, one of the greatest teams in English football throughout history. You know, they're a staple of British football. They've got a great stadium. Sheffield's an amazing city. They've got a huge fan base that have been absolutely starved of success for probably 15, 20 years now. Well, they're about to go down because at the start of the season, they had a 6-point deduction for financial irregularities relating to the sale of their stadium. Now, not one of their fans probably wanted them to sell their stadium, and not one of their fans was involved in them selling their stadium. But those fans are now going to be punished by having to endure League One football for at least a season, maybe more. And all of this against the backdrop of their bitter rivals having the best season they've ever had last season as well. So I love an underdog. I feel sorry for Sheffield Wednesday because the only thing worse than your team being rubbish is your rivals being amazing by their standards. And I just feel sorry for all fans of Sheffield Wednesday because they've been relegated through things that just haven't happened on the pitch. They
You know what? Do you know what? It doesn't sound good, but you know what? There's a bright side to this.
Go on.
I think they found a new League One fan in you, Ori.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Next season, 100%. Sheffield Wednesday. I've always had you get them teams that you have a soft spot for no reason.
I think
So
because they were in the Prem when we were growing up.
Yeah, growing up.
It took a long while to be like, oh yeah, Sheffield United are now bigger than them.
And
you
also,
know, like
the first cup final I ever attended was Arsenal against Sheffield Wednesday with my mum and my uncle, and it would have been about 93, so I'd have been like literally a toddler. But yeah, like I've always had a soft spot for them, and also their support is huge. And you know, when you get teams like Bournemouth and like Brentford look like they might be coming up, you know, teams like that being in the Premier League, whilst teams like Forest, Wednesday, Derby County, Bristol City. I mean, Bristol City have never been in the Premier League. And it does annoy me when like what I deem as like farmers, if you will, Mark, like Bournemouth are in the Premier League when a team like Bristol City have never got up. It winds me up a little bit. And
Well, maybe what they should do to
where
help you
has
with
more
that
farmers,
is ring fence.
Bristol or Bournemouth?
What they should do is ring fence the Premier League and just have no relegations. That should make you happy.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, wouldn't it?
No go on, Mark. You go ahead.
Go on then. Front three this week. I don't know if any of you saw Kanye West's Nike Air Yeezy 1. So a pair of trainers he wore in 2008 sold for just under $2 million.
By him or by a collector?
Bought by a collector. He sold them.
Yeah. That lives matter.
Honestly, like the reason it's in my front three is because I own a couple of pair of Yeezys, holding on to them to resell. So I'm hoping, you know, as the ceiling gets higher, some of the lower valued stock goes up as well.
How much did you pay for them when you got them?
Each pair of trainers I own, I paid about $220 on average.
You've just ruined the sale there, Mark. Everyone now knows. I'm paying you more than $250 now.
Did you buy them as an investment opportunity, or did you buy them because you like the trainers?
No, to resell.
Oh, fair play.
If you ever Well, you say that, Danny. You go on StockX and you'll just see trainers, and it'll be like StockX buy for £200, sell for 700. They don't hide this stuff.
That Danny
And,
doesn't invest in real things. He only does crypto.
Yeah, if it's not digital and fake, I'm not interested.
It's not
But
made
the
of
pro-
blockchain. and it ain't made of nothing.
Yeah.
The problem with owning stock, which is valued based on Kanye's behavior, is it fluctuates more than Bitcoin. So don't you worry. You get your momentum up and down with it. But yeah, honestly, Kanye could design he literally could take a photo of his bare foot and people would be like, where do I buy that? I don't know what it is about some of the following
And he just
has.
puts up there.
So Kanye front three, back four. I don't know if any of you saw this young web designer from Argentina tried to go onto google.com.ar, which is the Argentina version of Google, and it was down. And he actually bought the domain of Google because he realized it was down. He went onto a site and realized it was up for sale, bought it. And then in the morning, Google said, oh, this is a mistake, and somehow just took it back off him. So it hasn't come out how they actually just took it off him. But
they own the internet, don't they? So
yeah. I put it in my back four because it's a bit suspect. It's like, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. We're taking that back.
I don't know how they got away with doing that. Like, surely they should have at least compensated him and said, "Look, very clever, mate. Here's 10 grand."
There was it's been in the past. A lot of people have sold domains to big companies. So sometimes people buy domains of company names which are spelt slightly wrong, or they'll buy company the names which are similar. So it might be like Google.internet or something, and they'll buy up loads of those and hope Google will pay them a few £100 just to buy it off them.
Happened a lot in the 90s. People would open an account, fill a website like NatWest loan, and then fill it with porn or something, and then NatWest would have to pay them 10 grand to take it down.
That's just what you told your mum.
Yeah. No, but
that's where I'm doing my online banking. Yeah,
that's my banking. Mum, I do. Look, my bank card. It says Bang Bros. That's what
Yeah, I know my bank cards are stuck together, but come on, Mum. Yeah.
Oh,
what's this on your bank statement? Fake taxi? What's that?
Listen, our parents listen to this.
Oh.
All right. Well then, Danny, some family-friendly ones. Go on.
Sure. My back four this week is something that absolutely pissed me off when I heard about it. But I'm pissed off because I have never heard about it until the other week when it was on the news. But did you hear about the post office scandal?
Yes.
Didn't I do this last week?
No.
About the people. Which one?
No,
selling the stock, or the postman that got sacked?
No, the post office scandal where nearly 800 people were prosecuted. Some went to prison, some killed themselves, all because they were told they owed the post office money for fraud, when the post office just had a defective system. And this went on for 14 years. This is like the biggest scam in history. How did we not hear about this?
I knew a geezer, funny enough. Well, actually, I knew his wife. And it was like a rumor went around, that woman's husband works in the post office and was caught robbing. And she fully divorced him and everything over it.
So Mark, in case you don't know the story, just to explain the story. So between 2000 and 2014, there were just over 700 and something sub-postmasters and postmistresses, who are the people that work at the post office, which was an average of one a week over the time period, was prosecuted for either fraud or stealing from the post office. And what happened is they implemented a new computer system. It's called Horizon, and it was basically faulty. And so at the end of every day, when they would count up money, it was always wrong. And basically right now the computer's fine, it's definitely you. And rather than anyone for all these years thinking for a minute, hold on, there's hundreds of people here, all thieving, all robbing, they all got so bullied by the post office, they all got forced to pay it back. Some people went to prison, like a pregnant lady that was on the news, she went to prison for 9 months or something.
There was one person that went to prison for 4 years.
And
it turns out it was they knew for a long time. It was just a faulty bit of tech.
There'll be some scammers in there, I bet. No. This lady
they've been campaigning for years and years and years, saying we're not thieves. This is something going on. They all finally got together. Anyway, it was on the news because they've just won. Now it's 2021. This was 21 years ago it started. They've just won the case.
Panorama a few years ago, and it's on BBC iPlayer if you want to watch it, because I did. But it's absolutely incredible, like this
It's
new
unbelievable.
system. And then the problem is that the Royal Mail didn't want to work with police, didn't want to work with any of the investigators, and the main person, I can't remember her name. It's like an older lady, who was the head of the post office. Is literally just hey.
She stepped down now. She's quit. She's been.
Well, she
forced to
stepped down a
resign.
few years ago, but she's not doing anything. Like, and nothing's even happening to her. They just phone her asking if she wants to talk. She's like, "Oh no, I can't do that," and that's it. And all these people have lost years of their lives. They lost their jobs. They lost everything. And these are people who aren't from like London. These are like little villages where their entire reputation is a huge thing.
People
That's the
die.
big
Like,
thing,
people have died, as in they've died of whatever illness, age, whatever.
COVID.
And they've died with thinking and feeling like they're never going to get justice. They were honestly, when I heard this, I just don't understand one, how I'd never heard about it. Two, why nothing's been done about it, and how it's the biggest scam in history I've ever heard.
I did see this when it came out. I thought it was postman, like the delivery guys.
No.
I didn't realize.
No,
you get
people that
in
work
the
in the
shop.
post office. Unbelievable. Yeah. Anyway, I meant this was on my list for last week. I know we didn't do the pod, but I was watching that just in shock. I can't, and nothing's been done about it.
It is annoying when it is. You do feel like, because it's your everyday Joe Public, no one cares, isn't it?
But no justice. There'll be no justice.
Absolutely none. And it has gone on for nearly 2 decades, or more than 2 decades.
And do you know what? Like, sorry, I know we're going on about this. It's like, one of the reasons why apparently the ESL thing kind of died an early death, particularly in England, is because of government intervention and all the things that they were going to do to these football teams. Why can't they just do that quick enough? Why has this taken 14, 15 years to resolve this and there was no government intervention? All you have is Boris Johnson saying, "Oh, this is a tragedy." Fuck you, like, these are everyday people that aren't scamming anyone. 25,
No.
just outrageous. But yeah.
Anyway, that was my bad fault, because I just I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. Crazy. In my front three though, in lighter news, in my front three this week, also was from last week, is Josh Swain. Have you heard of Josh Swain?
No.
Have you heard of the Josh fight?
Oh yeah.
So I saw this the other week, and it just melted my heart. I thought it was bloody fantastic. So there's a student called Josh Swain from, I think he's Nebraska or somewhere in the outskirts of nowhere, and he decided, as a joke, he would jokingly message loads of people called Josh and just basically say, put a time and a date and say, we're all going to go and have a fight. And sure enough, he said, and it was in a year's time, and it was April the 29th, April, something like that, and it was last week, basically. And he said, at this time, on this day, anyone called Josh, you're all coming to this field and we're all having a fight. Anyway, thousands of Joshes turned up, literally thousands of them. And they all came with these big like foam noodle things. They did organize the proper thing. And they all came like dressed up. There were people in fancy dresses, all sorts. They all decided to do a big thing for charity. Anyway, the winner of the Josh fight was, and the point was, the last man standing is the only one who's allowed to be called Josh. Everyone else has to change their name. And the last man standing was this little 4-year-old who's been coined Little Josh, who got a little Burger King hat and got all these short. And they raised something like 10,000. He had, I think he had learning difficulties, had some problems in hospital, and they raised like $10,000 for the local hospital. And anyway, since then, loads of other people are now trying to copy it, being like, "Oh, there's the Charlotte fight, and there's the something else."
But that meme of messaging everyone with the same name has been around for 10
I know,
years.
but the fact that it happened and thousands of people turned up a year later in COVID, just honestly, just watch a clip. Go on Twitter and watch a clip of it.
I don't know about you. I mean, I watched the clip, but to me, it sounds like this fight was a little bit rigged.
Yeah.
That
4-year-old was good.
But like, this is why there's no Josh on this pod. They have to be one better than everyone else, isn't it? It was a funny meme that people used to send around. I've seen it with every name, but no, Josh has to set it up. He has to make mainstream news.
Anyway, well done to Josh Swain and all the Joshes, the thousands of Joshes that turned up. I really enjoyed that story.
Just during COVID?
Yeah, it was last week.
Jesus Christ.
Where do you think you would get on in terms of percentile with your own name? Because there's not that many. You don't get.
Oh, Chris. There's a lot of Chris and Dan.
What I'm saying is, where do you think you come? Where do you think you come? Top 5%?
We've all got very biblical names.
I'll be smashing.
Are you including just Christopher's, or are you including Christine's?
No, just Christopher's. Because I reckon, like, as much as he's a big lump, I know some nutters called Chris, and Chris Alley ain't one of them. So like, I reckon you'd be struggling to get top 30%, Chris. I don't know about everyone else.
How about I change
alright.
my name to Rory and I'll come round yours, eh?
You never get yourself parked around there.
Dear. Right. That was a good one. Not too long one, hopefully. It's nice to be back. Very good. We'll see you next week after the Champions League. Big week for football.
Big week for Pochettino.
Big one for us as well. Got European on Thursday for the Europa League, guys. So not
Actually,
too much hope.
Did you hear today they announced that Europa League finals being allowed fans? So if it's Arsenal United, you know where we'll be on our sofas.
We got to do a live watch. I know you've been dying to do a live watch, Dan, so we could do that. How about that?
We could road trip to Gdansk and watch it in a bar over there. Live watch from there.
United Villarreal, great final.
Yeah, it will be. I don't hold that much hope.
Yeah. All right. We shall see you next week. Have a good one.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.